Okay, so the bell is ringing, tells us that it's time to start. I'm recording it because we have a couple of people in quarantine, so I'm trying to remember to do this. Hello, whoever's watching. So today we're switching to chapter 7 and moving forward. Today we're hoping to get through chapter 7 and part of 8 so that we are able to do the work on Thursday. Please remember, Thursday we won't be meeting here. We will be meeting at the PSYC411 Field House. Is that how you pronounce it? Okay, just making sure. So Thursday, PSYC411 Field House, not this classroom. That will be important to us, and we're going to go through some practical exercises. A request: if you have a baseball cap of any type, please bring it. Any kind of a build cap, if you would. I have some, but during a pandemic, it's kind of better if you bring your own, because we're going to be using those in the gym, as weird as it sounds, all right? So, all right, let's move onwards here. So, one of the biggest problems that we faced, remember this whole inverted U hypothesis, one of the biggest problems is how to attune yourself to calm down enough to play. It's really easy for most people to hype themselves up. It is extremely difficult, whether before a game or before an exam or before a debate or before a vocal performance or whatever else, to calm yourself down enough. So instead of going through everything in chapter 7, I want to actually go through a couple of the simplest things that make a difference to people, all right? So all of these are available. You've already read them. You've read the textbook, but I want you to think through the practical applications now. Let's say that on Thursday, I'm going to have you shooting free throws, right? Seriously, that's what we're going to be doing. Knowing that you have to shoot free throws might stress you out a bit if you've never shot them before. And I have volunteers from men's and women's teams who are going to be helping teach you how to shoot if you don't know, all right? Volunteers. You might even get some of the members of the class to help teach as well. It's easy to ramp up, especially with anxiety. What if people watch me? What if they laugh at me? What if I don't score every single, right? Those kind of things, those are natural that we have. I want us to focus on how to calm down. Self-medicating with music is very helpful, either way. Do you make the right choices, though? If you need to amp up, can you listen to something that's incredibly fast, incredibly energetic, right? So NBA players, a lot of NBA players, they publish their playlists. If any of you have looked that up, it's kind of fun. They have listings up. If you've looked it up, so you see some of them are weird, but it makes sense to that individual, and that's all that matters. Gives you ideas of what you should be thinking about matters to you, to ramp up. Ramping down is harder, and music doesn't always help us ramp down a little bit. It helps us ramp down a lot. So if I start playing, Tchaikovsky, it will get me to this cool Zen place. It's wonderful. If I listen to certain Mozart pieces, I can put myself to sleep. It's wonderful. Not bad music, it's just, I love it, and it's calming. But getting yourself to that point where you're too high on the scale and coming backwards to optimize your performance, it's really difficult with music, unless you know yourself that well musically, which most people do not. So I want you to actually try a couple things today. First, I want you to actually think about this, PMR. Rather than reading through it, I'm going to give you the abbreviated version of it, all right? I want you to take your hands and spread them out. Take your fingers and flex them, all right? Now, I want you to take both hands, even though it's not the way it says in this. I want you to take both hands, make them into fists. Dig your nails in to the point where it almost hurts. Start clenching up your forearms, clench your arms, bring it in. Actually force it so that you are worried about ripping the seams of your shirt. Stretch your pectoral muscles here, these. Stretch them into it. Now, hold that. Start with your toes. Dig them down into your shoes. Clench your feet. Clench your calves. Clench your thighs. Bring it into your belly button so that you feel your belly button pushing out to the back of your back. Redundant. Then let go. If you have been holding it, you should feel a rush of relief right now. Tiny one, but should still be there. Did any of you feel that? We start considering how we control the stress. And the second you start realizing that you can get yourself to relax, even if you have to tense up first to feel relaxation, you start to gain mastery of yourself. And you recognize that you can do this when you need to instead of when the situation might allow it. You have just taken that first step. The text goes through this other thing which isn't as practical really, starting with the dominant, then going to the non-dominant, whichever that is. One of the realities of a lot of professional athletes is that they're ambidextrous. Highest proportion of ambidextrous people in the population are elite athletes. So this has always bothered me because I can't decide which hand is my dominant. How do you determine which hand is dominant in a small child? Have any of you ever been taught this, like in developmental psych or anything? I take you as a 12, 18-month-old baby, sit you down, and I put something directly center in front of you, and I watch which hand you reach for. That's your dominant hand. Usually. Why is it just usually? Yeah.
I feel like sometimes society kind of dictates which hand you use for things. So like I'm left-handed, but there's a lot of things that I do with my right hand because like that's what I learned, whether it's like a computer mouse or like driving a car, I use my right foot and stuff like that.
Yep. That's exactly. The desk you're sitting at is a right-handed desk. So it doesn't help a lot. There's left-handed, but you notice left-handed desks almost always appear right in the front here. Does the Bible have anything to say about left-handed people, by the way? It's rather insulting. As an ambidextrous person, I don't know. I don't, literally, do you know the word for left-handedness? Sinister. That is the literal word. You are a sinister person. Sinister means left-handed, but it has connotations, right? That's exactly where you're going with this. It's just kind of in a way that we don't like to think about. Sinister just means left-handed, but it's taken to mean bad and evil. And in the Bible, left-handed people are either the untrustworthy ones or gay. If you didn't know that, reread parts of it and you'll start to go, oh, it's like, wow, let's put some value judgment here. It's not very fair. But you have to understand the cultural context. We start going through these issues, handedness. Is that going to help us calm down by having the dominant first or the non-dominant first? No. So I disagree with this from the textbook, but it is their system. I would much rather you think through overall stress to de-stress. How do you do it? Watching, my son was laughing. I got home last night and it was like, I don't know, 8 o'clock or 8:30, something like that, and long day work. And he was watching, just flipping channels, and the Birmingham Squadron G League basketball was on. And it was interesting because you could see the guys on the sideline who expected to go in rotation. Non-basketball players, how do you think that they were warming up? Physically, what kind of movements do you think that they were doing beside the bench?
Maybe stretching.
Stretching is what I would think, yeah. That's not what they do a lot of, though. What do they do? Right before they're expecting a call to go in, they tend to jump up and down. Sometimes it almost looks like they're doing jumping jacks, different ways, but they're jumping. Why does jumping get you amped up? Basic physiology here.
Is that like short bursts of energy that you have to use to jump?
So the short burst of energy is going to have what kind of response? Exactly. Cardiac response, increased heart rate. Moving my fists in a controlled manner is not going to change my heart rate. Here is the question. Should you always be increasing your heart rate significantly? Or should sometimes you be slowing it down? Right? Inverted U. You have to learn yourself in order to understand whether you should be amping up or calming down. Most of the guys that were jumping up and down were already too hyped. And it was funny because they said, that guy's going to come in and he's going to, like, at least an air ball, if not throw the ball away. And of course, he came in, his very first pass was so hard that it bounced and went over the guy's head on the other side. Bad pass, bad pass. He was already amped up. He should not have been jumping up and down to amp himself up more. Coming down. Those of you who have sports where you have to focus, you find that there are certain behavioral attributes. And think through. On a soccer team, are there players who have to be like cold as ice at times? Who? Goalkeepers. Why?
I mean, just like, you have to remain calm in the moment if you're, like, if someone's on a breakaway, then you're not gonna wanna, like, flip out. But you have to, like, approach them in the right way and get low and, like, be focused, and you watch, like, the ball instead of what they're doing.
Because the goalkeeper plays more with her mind than with her legs. Yes, she has to have amazing bursts of speed and all the rest of it. But it's very much. Quarterbacks. Quarterback, is that what I remember? Quarterbacks. You have to be able to be calmer than almost anyone else out there, right? That is the balance. It's the most delicate balance. So with fMRI technology, mobile fMRI technology, we have estimated that the average NCAA or NFL quarterback processes somewhere about 4.5 petabytes of information per second. Did everyone hear what I just said? 4.5 petabytes of information per second. What is a petabyte? What's a terabyte? Go ahead and Google. If you guys are going to have your laptops open, let's use them for good purposes. Someone Google what is a petabyte of information. Someone else Google what is a terabyte of information. My hard drive at home, I have a terabyte drive.
Terabyte is a unit of digital data that is equal to about 1 trillion bytes.
1 trillion bytes. So, average laptop here on this campus has a 330 gigabyte drive, right? Because the SSID cards that you use instead of hard drives. So that's the average. So 3 regular hard drives is a desktop hard drive. So I can hold somewhere around 500 movies, 600 movies, something like that on a tera drive. Who's Googled petabyte? What is it?
1,000 terabytes.
1,000 terabytes. So, if you are processing 4.5 petabytes of information per second, are you able to pay attention to that? Not if you are too amped up. Not if you are not amped up enough. Quarterbacking is about finding the sweet spot. It's not just your arm. Your arm is the least important part. Right there. This understanding. For all of these sports, we have to find that optimization of the curve, the optimal performance based on the appropriate amount of arousal, right? Calming down is the big thing. So I want you to ask yourself a question. What calms you down that would be appropriate in a situation like, tell me your name again?
Michael.
Michael. You're all stand-ins for Michael, okay? You're the new substitute quarterback. I don't know, wait, first string or, I haven't watched
I
football.
just transferred here.
You just transferred here, okay, cool. So you want to be first string. Good job. Being new to Samford, I know 2 football players because I had them in class last semester, and Montreal graduated. So I know 1 football player other than you that I know of. So I'm still learning the place. All of you are going to play quarterback for a game, all right? Just so we're all on this common skill set here. You have all been doing your squats. Make sure your legs are strong enough, because a lot of that distance is from the core and the squats, those leg muscles, not just the arm. The arm would have to be like this big to throw 100 yards if it wasn't for the core and the legs, right? Basic dynamics, biomechanics are essential to this. You know that you can throw 100 yards if you need to in a perfect spiral. Can you aim it and time it and figure out every other moving part? Do receivers always go exactly at the same speed? Do they all expect the same coverage by the defensive players, right? So, I'm supposed to be up here to keep it in. I just don't normally stand here, but the video, sorry, forgive me. If you were out, I would try to record for you too. We have to think about what is happening, how much information you are processing. Because if Michael's on the field, Michael is not just thinking about his physical condition. He is not just thinking about who is supposed to be receiving, who is covering that person. The unfortunate reality is Michael's also thinking about, man, she's really cute over on the sideline there. Or, did I leave my iron on? Or, what am I going to do if my car breaks down? All of the rest of this is still happening in Michael's life. We cannot just put it into a little bin in our mind. We have to recognize it's there and use that to help us calm down. We use that to focus. And we say, I don't have to worry about my iron. There's a safety valve, someone else would turn it off, and I have a fire alarm. It's okay. If she's really cute over on the sideline, talk to her later. Impress her now. But don't worry about impressing her as much as just completing this task, right? These are the issues that we neglect in considering how up and down. You are whole people. You are not just automatons who are doing one function at one moment in time. Right? Is this making sense to everyone? So what I'd like you to do is either in a note or on a piece of paper, whatever format you want, I want you to think through 3 things that help you calm down fast in an active situation. An active, let's just say social situation for the moment, before we bring it into sport. An active social situation. Try and name 3 things. You don't have to read them out to us, okay? So be honest with yourselves. I'm going to turn this off for a moment.